Hi, I'm Jami.
And I'm Hugo.
Welcome to No Particular Place to Go, where two middle-aged guys on opposite sides of the Atlantic talk rubbish about cars, car culture, ownership, track days, modifications, and pretty much anything else related to cars. We're not professionals, as you'll shortly hear, but a big part of our lives revolve around all things with four wheels. Thanks for joining us. So we got some stuff that we want to talk about today. Hugo, you had some stuff. Do you want to start off?
Yeah, I had some stuff. I mean, something that I was thinking about just the other day is so we've had the long weekend here, right? Like it's been sort of Easter weekend. So I had Friday off and I've got Monday off. And the weather has been reasonably nice for Britain. And so actually on Friday...
the sun, you saw the sun is what you're saying.
Saw the sun, yes. I mean, I'm still wearing several layers, but like I saw the sun.
Yeah, you're bundled up like you're outdoors right now. Is this normal for this time?
Well, it's just a drafty old house.
Oh, okay.
We have very good heating. And, and it's more efficient to heat the person rather than the air, right? Which is why EVs all have heated seats and heated steering wheels, because that's more efficient. It takes less energy to heat the human in a heated seat than it does just by
I did not know that.
Hot air out.
I didn't know that. I mean, you know that because you're a huge Tesla fan.
Yeah, monster Tesla fan. I saw another one this week. Actually, it had Swiss plates on it and had the little sticker saying, "I bought this before Elon was crazy." I think they're probably handing those out with them new at the dealership now.
And here's the thing is, if you bought it before Elon was crazy, then it can't be a Tesla, because that guy, I think he's been crazy since day one.
Exactly. When was he born? It's like,
exactly.
Is this a steam-powered Tesla?
I gotta say though, I owe a huge thanks, because I was definitely known among friends as the guy who irrationally hated Elon Musk, and because of his antics, everybody now sees that you should rationally hate him.
Yes.
So they've turned my irrational dislike into rational dislike. So thank you.
Yes.
I looked like a raving lunatic, and now I look like a prophetic genius.
Yeah, right. Nostradamus, more or less. Yeah,
that's exactly me.
That is nice when the world comes to realize that you are on the path of righteousness. And
it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often. It never happens except for this. Yeah. But anyway.
Well, I mean, that's maybe another interesting topic that we should get onto. What are all the other things that you hate that the world will catch up with one day? Like maybe the 3-ton metric SUVs being one. Like let's get rid of those things.
Hell yeah! I mean, yeah. I think they're definitely trendy. I don't know why people buy them, but all right, we'll circle back to that. Concentrate, Jami. Concentrate. Stay on topic, like your third grade.
Yeah, one thing at a time. So I went for a drive on Friday with me and the lady wife, and we had a nice little day out, and we went to like an old sort of stately home and wandered around the garden, and we went out for, lunch and all the rest of it. And it was all very pleasant. And we went in the funny little French sports car, and which is always an event,
Does she like it? Is she okay with riding along?
She actually fell asleep at one point. So to me, that's like the ultimate compliment. That's like my silky smooth sort of Jackie Stewart-esque driving style.
Yeah, you are
soporific.
You're a fantastic driver, and the car is comfortable. That's what that means in my book.
Yes. Yeah. Well, but it is, right? Like it rides well. It's when you're not on it, it's fairly quiet. Like it's quite spacious inside. Nice. Despite the fact that there is room for like I don't know, 2 rolls of kitchen roll, and that's about it in the boot. But
I don't know what a kitchen roll is. What's a kitchen roll?
Oh, plenty.
Plenty?
Yeah, plenty or brawny.
Oh, kitchen roll.
What do you call it?
I see. We call that heavy duty toilet paper. You do not want to wipe with that stuff.
No, you don't. Don't try and. I lived there for 8 years. I never wiped my bum with that stuff.
I can't pull this out. No, we just call it paper towels.
Okay.
It makes us feel
Paper
better about
towels.
throwing them away instead of using real towels. Like, oh, it's paper towels.
Just throwing real towels away all the time beforehand.
I mean,
Yeah,
we
why
probably
not?
do too, but anyway,
Yeah.
sorry. So kitchen roll, that's new. That sounds
Kitchen
like a
roll /
tasty
paper
snack,
towels.
but
Sorry,
yeah, I was saying that sounds like a tasty snack, but it's
kitchen rolls.
to the
Like a
Americans
spring
it means
roll.
paper towels, which will cost us $5 a roll soon. Anyway, so
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's not get onto all of that.
yeah, the whole other segue.
we're having a nice conversation about little French sports cars in the English countryside, and then all of a sudden getting pulled into global geopolitics and whatever.
No, let's avoid it.
But so we're cruising down these little lanes, and all the greenery is coming out. It's all very nice, and there's some twisties and stuff. But I don't think I don't know, probably 2, maybe 3 hours driving at one, like maybe there were a couple of minutes when the road opens out, the speed limit goes up, and there is no one in front of you. And the rest of the time, it's kind of 30, or you're behind someone in like a Kia or something. And, there's never enough space or length to go, oh, okay, actually, I'm gonna do the overtake here because the sight lines aren't there, and I don't really want to have a head-on collision. I can, I have too much imagination.
That's a very solid call.
Yeah. And so it just kind of got me thinking, it's like, in some ways, like the whole thing about like, to what extent it's actually fun to drive on the road in a kind of nice car anymore, at least, in certain parts of the world. And I was going to ask you about this because I think you were someone who, like, sort of does a lot of track days and sort of invests in that as a way to enjoy driving. Also, like, your collection of like models, I think, is a really good way to like appreciate cars and things about cars without like having to, have them all and worry about them. And also I was kind of thinking about gaming as like another way of like being able to enjoy some of those experiences, which actually like are kind of hard to come by in real life. And I mean, I just kind of, like curious as to your thoughts. I mean, obviously, like the driving situation over here and the driving situation over there are in many ways very different. But also, it still feels like there's too many cars on the road, right? And like when I lived there and I had my 911, it's like I'd be like, oh, there's a great twisty road, and then you go, okay, and now I'm behind some boomer in a Subaru, and it's same really.
Yeah, wow. There's a lot there. Okay, I'll take the easiest one first. So I think like the models, they definitely satisfy that itch of, if you're like me, you place a very high level of emphasis on the aesthetics of a car. Like, how does it look? Think of it as like living sculpture. But of course, it's 1/18 scale or whatever scale you have, and you can't actually experience the full experience of owning that car because you go just look at it. But it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying a lot of cars which are just garbage to drive but are beautiful. Or I shouldn't say garbage, but just not worth the money, right? So Aston Martin V8 Vantage, I'm looking at you. Or there's many. Or there's cars that are like, hey, they're multi-million dollars. I'm never going to own them, but I really appreciate how they look. But they definitely don't scratch the dynamic itch. Track days for sure. Track days are like the other extreme. So if you look at stuck in traffic as one end of the spectrum, and then track days are the other way. So you're definitely enjoying the car to the fullest, but it's a narrow band of what that car can do that you're experiencing. Because at that point you're like, well, suspension compliance, that's out the window. Don't care. Obviously, fuel efficiency, like the creature comforts, those are all out the window. What you care about is ultimate handling ability. What's the power delivery like? What's the torque delivery like? And then another one, which I think is massively underrated, is reliability. Can I hammer on this car day after day after day without having to pour tons of money into it? Is it killing sets of tires on a regular basis? Is it costing me thousands of dollars for various reasons? So that's like one extreme. And then kind of in the middle is road driving. But most of my road driving is pretty much similar to what you described, which is, hey, I'm behind somebody. Like, I can't really enjoy, say, this curve or this stretch of road as much as I would like. This road might be a ton of fun, but there's a billion cars on it, so I can't open up the car.
Yeah.
I think the it's not the antidote, but the best approach that I've seen friends do, and I've participated a couple times, is like, all right, we go on Saturday morning drives when the roads are lighter, or even better, a Sunday morning drive. And they'll meet at 7, 8 a.m. and then head out. And then by the time you get to 10, the roads are too crowded, but you've got your driving in at that point.
Yeah.
And so that's one approach. I think that works well. Or you could go late at night. It's like, hey, I didn't leave the house until midnight, went on a drive. I think those are a little less engaging because, I mean, frankly, I'm tired at that point. I'm like, I don't want to jump in the car and drive anywhere nearly aggressively because that seems like a bad combination. Yeah. But I think that's the reality of living in like a larger metropolitan area. But that is that is also, I think all of that is part of why I enjoy road trips, because definitely like cost per mile, they're way cheaper than a track day. You get to see new stuff, and that's a whole different set of vehicle characteristics that you're exploiting. So now it's not like, what's the ultimate braking power, cornering power, acceleration, but it's a combination of all these other things, including creature comfort. If you're going with other people, it's like, is it quiet enough for us to have a conversation? So it's like, it's different attributes that you're testing, so to speak, on that road trip.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, because like to what you were saying about like the kind of models and thinking about like the aesthetic part of it as well. Like something for me is like that context of where you are in that car, like, and it's kind of like the car advert thing, right? Like if you have a car that you think is cool and then you're in a location that's beautiful and it's different from where you just kind of are at home, then somehow that's like an added, like it brings something to it. Whereas I guess, and I've never properly done a track day. I've done a little bit of kind of like, I did like a Caterham day at Brands Hatch, but it wasn't sort of pounding around the circuit necessarily. But I guess with a track day, you're not like, you don't go for the scenery, right? Like maybe some tracks are more scenic than others, but ultimately you're going round and round in the same loop, versus like, I don't know, even going from like San Francisco to Palm Springs or something like that, and you go through different scenery, and it's like, you know, you see the car in different contexts, and you get something from that.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely enjoying that car in a different context. So it's like, you've got all these different situations. Like maybe you enjoy drag racing, which is very different from obviously, you know, your drive to work, and it's different from an early morning drive, and it's different from a track day. So it's like, there's all these different situations that you could enjoy this thing. And the attributes that you exercise vary from the situation that you're using them in.
Yeah, it's true. And I suppose on some level, and thinking again about my kind of little drive on Friday, there is some enjoyment in a car like that, even when you're going slowly, even when you're going the speed limit, when you're behind a tractor or whatever, because you're kind of sitting there going, yeah, but I'm in something a little bit special, right? Like, and it does kind of, you know, you are reminded of that all the time, even if it's like, I don't know, like the seats in the Volvo are better and the stereo is definitely better and all that kind of stuff. But like, there is something that then, in some ways, I suppose maybe if you lived in a place and a time where there weren't that many cars on the road and the speed limits were just so, and there weren't potholes, and you're like, I can have that blast on the road anytime I want, it probably feels less special than when you go like, okay, I know that a lot of the time I'm going to be sitting in traffic or whatever it is. And then when I do get that moment to open up, like it's really like you really notice it, and it's really kind of meaningful in a way, versus just being like, okay, that's baseline.
Yeah, I think you really appreciate it. And again, like you're appreciating the car in a totally different way. Like, you know, I'm trying to think like, I don't know, you've got an Audi RS6, right? Like your drive to a ski weekend with your family is going to be very different than you took it to the drag races on Saturday night, which was going to be very different from your like puttering around to work on Monday morning.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that so I don't trailer to track days. I find it a hassle. I don't own a tow vehicle, etc. So it's always interesting to take the it's usually 2 hour drive to the track, spend all day bombing around the track, and then jumping back in that same car and then driving home. And by the time I get
Yeah.
home, I'm just like, wow, that car did a lot of different things today. I asked a
Yeah.
lot of it, and it kept on ticking, no problems. I'm not pouring a ton into maintenance, and it really makes me appreciate that car. It's kind of an all-arounder. It's not an all-arounder in the sense that, like, oh, I could throw 5 people in it and go skiing in it, but it's
Yeah.
an all-rounder in that it really fulfilled everything I needed to do that day, and it excelled at all those things. And I
Mm.
have this deep sense of appreciation for the car for doing all that.
Yeah. And you're talking about your NSX there, right?
Yeah, my NSX or my Miata.
Yeah.
And I would say my Miata even more so because I mean, we talked about this before, but you don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, Miata
Yeah.
engines don't blow up on a regular basis, even if they
Yeah.
spend all day at Redline. And then even if it did, it wouldn't be hopefully financially ruinous. You'd be like,
Yeah.
all right, I can get a replacement engine for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
NSX has done that at multiple times. Like, yeah, I've just beat up on it, and it's gotten me home. On the other hand, though, the NSX has a couple times like blew a coolant hose or I cracked a coolant reservoir, and it's not like you walk into Napa and buy one. So it caused a very high level of stress. But worst comes to worst, you're calling AAA and you're getting a tow.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because I guess I've ridden in your NSX a couple of times, and on the road, and it always felt like, okay, sure, like it's obviously it's not like a normal car in some ways, but it's like it's totally fine on the road. But I had somehow thought, like, as you were talking about, like, in a way, that kind of track environment being like a lot of people like wind up with a car that is just for the track and like no suspension travel and massive wings and like all of that kind of stuff, like, no radio, no aircon, like all stripped out just so, for a tenth of a second. Like, I'd somehow pictured, like, in a way that was more the direction that you were kind of taking that car. And it's sort of interesting to me that, like, to hear you say that, like, it's an important part of that track experience that actually you can still drive it there and drive it back. And it has enough duality that, like, you can do that all in one car rather than needing the trailer and the pit crew and the, all the rest of it.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people who go way off the deep end, and they'll take a car that started out as a street car, like very lightly modified, and then fast forward a year or so, and the car is totally stripped out. It's got a cage. They bought a trailer. They have a vehicle that can tow the trailer. The car's not street legal anymore. This is, by the way, I'm looking at you, Brandon, with your with your white PRC. If you hear this, I'm talking about you, Brandon. And then, the car, because it's non-op, like, you can't drive it on the street. And then, so it purely exists for track days. So that's a lot of money that you've put in to be used for a very, very, very short period of time.
Yeah.
And then, you either end up selling the car or you go deeper into it, money be damned, and you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I think like the really wealthy are like, oh yeah, I've got a track car and someone else brings it to the track for me and someone else does.
Oh, sure. I mean, like those ridiculous Ferrari programs, right? Where you don't even get to take it home with you. And like, you just show up at the track and your car, air quotes, is there with like the team of mechanics, and you get to drive it for a couple of hours and, and then that's it. And then you jet off to Zurich.
It's just an arrive and drive program. What's cool is I've seen people that do that for much more modest cars, and they're like, hey, for the weekend it'll cost you a couple $1,000. You arrive and drive. We take care of everything. You don't even own the car, and you don't want to, or you don't need to, and you get the full experience without the commitment.
Yeah, that's a bit like, I mean, I don't know whether it's still such a big thing. And I think that it happens a bit in the US, but like for a while in the UK, like the sort of supercar driving day was a thing. That you would show up at a track and be like, I don't know, I get 5 laps in an MX-5 to kind of get my eye in, and then I get to go in like the M3 and then the 911 and then the Murcielago or whatever, and then that's it, and I paid my 500 quid and then I just walk away, sort of thing.
They are still around. In fact, I'm doing one in August.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, nice. What are you driving?
So I actually forgot because I registered for it so long ago. I had just looked it up a couple weeks ago. I was like, did I did I sign up for like a base model old Dodge? What am I driving here? No, so all right, so I'm driving R35 GTR, which
Okay.
I really want to drive because I only driven one on the street, and that's a car
Hmm.
that has way more capability than you can exploit on the street.
Yeah. Yeah.
Driving the Corvette Z06, the C8 Z06, which I'm really excited
Okay.
about. That car seems really cool. It's all I know they benchmarked like a Ferrari 458. So is it
Yeah.
going to be a
And
model
hang on,
458?
the C8 is now the mid-engine one,
That's right. Yeah.
and the what did you say Z06?
Z06.
Z08,
Yeah. Yeah.
Z06. So it's not the Z01 is the supercharged one that's the top of the range, but the
Yeah.
Z06 is
I
like
I think
more
it's
than
twin
the normal.
turbo. Yeah. The
Okay.
Z06 is 600 odd horsepower, if I remember correctly.
Okay. It's
It's got the
quite a lot.
flat plane crank like a
Okay.
Ferrari. It makes that
Okay.
noise.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And then the last one is a Huracan.
Oh wow.
So
Okay.
yeah, so we'll see. It was interesting because it started out. The car I was first interested in was a Huracan because one,
Hmm.
I've never driven a Lambo of any sort, but
Yeah.
I also hear on a very consistent basis that they're not great track cars. I
Hmm.
think Chris Harris famously got into hot water. Not that he cares, but got into hot water with Lambo a couple of years ago because he said something along the lines of, "I've never seen any Lamborghini oversteer. They're
Hmm.
understeery. They're not that great handlers, etc., etc."
Hmm.
And I can't remember ever seeing a Lamborghini at track, but you've seen Ferraris, you've seen McLarens, etc. You've seen
Yeah.
almost everything. I don't think I've ever
Yeah.
seen a Lamborghini at a track day.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty much all four-wheel drive, right? Unless they sort of
Pretty
do
much.
some special editions where they're two-wheel drive.
That's right. Yeah. So like the Huracan, they have had a couple of rear-wheel drive models, which
Hmm.
people again haven't driven one, but people do say that the rear-wheel drive models are the handlers of the bunch.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, their first rear-wheel drive model was also the cheapest Huracan. I mean, we're not talking
Hmm.
like, oh, you just pick up a Huracan, at least for me. But they were the cheapest. But dynamically, getting rid of the front-driven axles was supposed
Yeah.
to do it quite a few favors.
Yeah. And the weight and stuff as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But it's funny with Lambos because I always like my sort of mental model of them has always been like it's more of a poser's car for sort of pulling up outside like the nightclub in Miami, more than like, the equivalent sort of mid-engine Ferrari was always like that was the track tool, essentially.
Same
Right.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've had that same thought in my mind that the Lamborghini is more about flash. I mean, it's not that
Yeah.
Ferraris are subdued, but they have the handling chops that
Yeah.
Lamborghinis don't. At least that's the impression I've had.
And they sort of have the pedigree, right? Like they have an F1 team. Like I don't think Lamborghini ever were never an F1. Like they've done have they done Le Mans? Like I don't know, like maybe it's sort of GT2-ish class or something. But like they're not like a racing team, really.
Yeah, they have like their equivalent to the Challenge. They got the Super Trofeo, but I think,
Yeah.
and someone will probably type an angry email to us right now saying Lamborghini won Ferrari 18 years in a row, and
Yeah.
didn't. I don't think they have. I'm pretty confident they don't have the motorsports provenance anywhere approaching Ferrari.
Yeah.
So I think their styling tends to be, again, Ferraris are not understated generally, but I think Ferraris are not as flash as Lamborghinis are. Like, Ferraris, like, there's certain colors we won't produce. If you ask for a pink Ferrari, we will never make it for the factory. Lamborghini's like, sure, I don't care. You want pink with, like neon blue polka dots and stars?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll make that.
But don't Ferrari also do the sort of like sort of like false scarcity thing where like I seem to remember like with the LaFerrari you had to be invited to buy one, and in order to be invited you already had to have bought like I don't know 10 of them or something, like like
Oh
they're
yeah.
quite they're a bit like Hermes or some like luxury fashion house that is very concerned about like kind of like the value, because they're a public company now as well, right? So it's all about kind of like trying to maintain that scarcity and that kind of pricing power.
Yeah.
Whereas I think some of the other brands are a bit more like, hey, if we can sell the cars, like let's sell the cars kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like if people want to
Absolutely.
buy them, we'll sell them.
I think that's one thing that appeals to people, is you can walk in and just buy a Lambo, and they
Yeah.
don't care. You're like, okay, I don't know, it's a Huracan STO. They didn't make that many. Not that they're hard to find. There's plenty of them out there, but you can
Yeah.
just walk in and buy one if they've never heard of you.
Yeah.
Ferrari is a different story. Absolutely. It's they've been doing it for decades. Mark
Yeah.
McCann on YouTube did a fantastic video about how Porsche is doing this now too. He wanted to buy a GT3
Mm.
RS, and I think it's like a 2 or 3 parter, but he goes into depth into the deals that he was offered, and then how Porsche does this now, but they've started doing that more recently. Ferrari's been doing it for decades. They have a list. Your dealer has a list of their preferred clients, and then there's a list
Mm.
at the factory which supersedes your
Mm.
dealer list of who their top clients are. So if you want, what they, I can't even remember the name of it, but like the successor to the LaFerrari they announced. So if you want one of those, you better have an extensive history. If you're
Yeah.
starting from scratch, they often say, perhaps you should start with a used Ferrari. You start with like a more pedestrian one and then work your way up.
Yeah. How about this Fiat to begin with?
Yeah, with a Fiat Punto with a Ferrari badge on it, that's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
street put on you. That could be your starter. But yeah, you mentioned fashion houses, like the watches world is like this.
Mm.
An acquaintance who will not be named recently picked up a very, very high end watch, and he was sharing
Mm.
how it was almost like an audition. He walked into the retail location
Hmm.
for this brand, and they asked all sorts of things about him. And so it was like a
Huh.
two-way interview before they allowed him to buy one of their very expensive watches.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd kind of thought that in a way, like the only question should be like, are your dollars green?
Yeah,
You
and I think
know?
that's what puts people off. Like Jay Leno
Yeah.
has said, I will never buy, and I don't know if he doesn't own any Ferraris, but he said, I will never buy a new Ferrari because this
Huh.
stuff puts him off.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it does me too as well. Like, particularly with a lot of these, like they're very limited runs anyway,
Yeah.
right? Like, and it's that classic thing of like they announce them and they go, oh, by the way, they're all sold out. And you sort
Yeah.
of think, well, like, why are you making this car for this like closed shop of people? You already know who your buyers are. They probably like more or less have a tab. You're good for it. Like you pick a number out of thin air of what it's going to cost because there's so few of them. It's a good investment for your kind of customers anyway. And you sort of just like, I don't know, it's like entrenched privilege, right? It's kind of like
It
this
absolutely
closed
is.
shop of like, okay, the rich people get the best picks and get richer, and then the rest of us are just like,
Yeah.
the chance that I could ever just randomly kind of, I don't know, get a GT3 RS and get that appreciation. It's like it's not going to happen because I'm not on the
Yeah, you have
list.
to have been in the club before. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not I can't recall if you ever went when you were here in the US, but did you ever go to Monterey Car Week in August?
No, I didn't. To be honest, I was kind of put off by that whole snobby thing. Like, because
Me
I
too.
remember you describing it to me a little bit, and I was like, do you know what? Like, those are not the kind of people that I want to hang out with. Like, that is
Yeah.
not the car culture that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like the whole like, oh well, I've got this car that cost X million dollars, and there's only 3 of them in the world. I'm like, I'm not playing that game, and I'm just not like, it's not interesting to me.
Yeah, it's an interesting environment for sure. And we absolutely should talk about that. But one of
Mm,
the things that this reminds me of, this whole like exclusivity game, is going to the Quail. So I think the Quail
mm,
is one of like the most what's the word? Like most desired events to attend there.
yeah.
And one year I just said, I was like, well, how does it how does the process work to get a ticket to the Quail? And I looked, and they're like, oh, there's a lottery, and your name gets picked, and then you have the privilege of buying it for $450. And then they had, in the alternative, you could just pay us $600 outright and skip the lottery. And I was like, all right, this one year I'm just gonna bite the bullet. I'm just gonna do it and go.
Yeah.
And I did. Now I believe they've changed the system where it's like, oh, tickets are first available to people who've previously attended. And then if there's any left over, then you may have a shot at having it. But I was just like, yeah, okay. I mean, it's kind of like Comic-Con now, too. Like San Diego Comic-Con is the same, as they get offered first people who went before. And I'm with you. Like, the whole exclusivity game irritates me. But that's also, like, maybe if I'd grown up in those circles and, I was a multi-millionaire child. But I'm not. So that just, it's just weird to me.
Yeah, me too. And it's kind of like I don't know. I mean, I think to me, like what makes this sort of the world of cars interesting is where you have all these different sort of subcultures and you have different people who are into different things. And yet ultimately, like arguably, we all have something in common. And you should kind of in some way be able to like rub shoulders a little bit, I think. Like the kind of ideal Cars and Coffee is a very broad church, I think. Yeah. Whereas like, when you get to be this thing of like, no, like we're all like, the super like, 0.0001% and like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know that would be interested in even if I could be part of that group. Do you know what I mean? Like, because you'd kind of be like, no, I still want to hang out with the people who have like the battered old like Morris Minor or whatever, just because it's like there's a bit more to it then.
No, I totally agree. There's so many ways to enjoy cars and car culture that odds are, when the really gatekeeping and kind of snotty groups have some kind of event, you probably have 5 or 6 alternatives. And it's like, okay, I can go to, the gala that's black tie and only people who've been going for 15 years and their grandfathers are from noble families and blah, 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 blah can go. Or I could just take my car and just go on a freaking drive or go have dinner with a couple buddies and talk cars or enjoy some YouTube videos I've been to catch up on. And like, I think the snooty event is going to be at the bottom of my list. I can see why some people would want to go like, hey, it helps me get the next car, blah, blah, blah. But again, it's just not there's not a space that I'm in. And I don't know if I'd want to be.
No, because I mean, it's a bit like, if you had unlimited funds and you could have the entire list of cars that, you had an aircraft hangar somewhere and you could just like Harry's garage times 100.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would like a good proportion of those vehicles under that roof I would be objectively crap and not worth very much. Right. Because to me, that's just more my sort of taste in cars. It's like, I would want some sort of like, I don't know, I would probably want a DeLorean in there, right? And I know they're shit and they're not worth very much. But like to me, like as a sort of child of the 80s, like how could you not want a DeLorean if you could have a DeLorean?
Oh, yeah. I would want like the world's most pristine 1986 Oldsmobile Regency Broham.
Right.
Because that was my high school car. Like,
and hang on, and that's like the full size, like the kind of Cadillac DeVille.
It was one gen after. So like that's when they got more compact.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was
velour upholstery.
A well-used car in our family. It was my dad's car. It was my car. My brother had it for a while. My sister had it for a while.
Yeah.
That thing, I think I mentioned in the past. I think it was second engine, third transmission. They don't build them like they used to, thank God.
No. Like full sort of, was it like Ship of Thebes or whatever, It's is it actually the same car anymore?
I mean, at one point my sister backed it into a pole, so she kind of bananaed the rear bumper. It was bent in the middle and folded out. And then my brother managed to find a replacement in a junkyard. So it had a mismatched rear bumper, velour seats, dark blue, and it was
lovely.
Of course, now I think it's awesome. At the time, I was like, "This thing is an utter shitbox," but we loved it. Like that thing held on. I mean, on its third transmission, it held on.
But it's funny that, like, I think some cars, in a way, the more beaten up they get, the better they get. Like
Yeah.
I'm on this at the moment with our V60, right? So we're nearly at 17,000 miles since August in this
Nice.
car. Like this poor thing has just been taking a battering. And again, we're doing some building work at the moment. There was like some scaffolds or whatever, like leaned up by the garage next to the car. They fell over and they've scratched the paintwork even more. So it's now like it had all the horizontal and now it's got verticals. It's like basically like you could play noughts and crosses on the side of this poor thing. And yet, like the worse it gets, the more I'm kind of like, oh, but it's like part of the family now. Like it's kind of, it's like the stinky Labrador, it's kind of revolting, but you love it anyway.
Well, and there's something about damage that happened while it was under your ownership versus prior
Yeah.
damage. I'm more
Yeah.
sensitive about damage that happened while I had it. But I bought a lot of used cars. My BMW is far from perfect on the outside. It's got scratches, like there's chimps down to the primer in a couple places.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it the other day, and someone complimented. They're like, "Oh, that's really nice." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." They're like, "Yeah, man, you're just like a little bit of paint work and be pristine." I was like, "No, I don't want it to be pristine. This thing lives outside. I don't worry about it. Like it has door dings, so I wouldn't be happy if someone put a new door ding in it, but I'm not gonna be really upset.
About it.
Yeah, it's already got some. It's fine."
And the funny thing is, it's like, you look at cars like, I don't know, like Johnny Smith's like 2CV. I don't know if you've been watching that whole saga.
I have.
But it's like the patina is the whole point. And yet, like with modern cars, you're kind of like, oh no, it has like one little ding from the supermarket. Like that's it. I'm trading in for a new one, kind of thing.
It's kind of like, when you're younger and you get some new shoes, you get, some fresh Nikes, you get that first scuff.
And I used to hate that.
Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking, but at a certain point, like the scuffs will be so far gone that you just accept it. And
you don't care anymore. Did kids do it at school for you, where when you had the brand new trainers like that, they would like deliberately like wipe the bottom of their shoes on like the top of yours to make them dirty? Be like, oh, yours are too new, and then they'd come and ruin them for you.
Oh,
do people do that at your school?
No, and you can get punched in the face if you do that, man. I mean, you literally in some places might get killed over that. But
that was like Do the Right Thing, right? That Spike Lee film where someone like the white guy with the bicycle scuffed his Jordans and it really sparked a massive like
No, in school for me, I never experienced anyone doing that. I never experienced anyone doing that. And I think it would probably at least start an argument, maybe a fight. I don't think you necessarily get killed in small town Michigan that I grew up in, but you would get in trouble. Although I have heard that that is like a myth almost in like certain sports, like in motocross, you don't want to go out with unscratched boots. It's bad luck.
So I didn't know that.
Maybe that's in other sports. I don't know. People email us. I want to hear if you've heard of that.
Yeah. Well, I guess there is that thing of like, with some clothes, the whole point is to break them in, right? Like if you get sort of like real jeans that are just denim and don't have all the stretch and stuff in them, like out of the box, they're terrible. They're like cardboard. Like you need to wear them and live in them and then they get good, like leather boots as well.
Yeah, I was going to say some shoes are like that.
Yeah. I feel like, and I think we talked about this a bit before of like kind of cars that you would keep, but I think like consumer culture around vehicles has become very sort of like throwaway, right? Like everybody wants a brand new car and then wants to get rid of it as soon as it's like not the new thing, a bit like clothes nowadays. And it's sort of like, well, but like what are the vehicles? Maybe this is a good question. Like what are the vehicles that are better broken in and that might take a little while to break in? And then once you've got it, a bit scuffed up, then it's better than it was new.
Yeah. So I think anything intended for off-road use is definitely, like older Land Rovers and things like that. Like, so you talked earlier about 6,000 or 3-ton EV SUVs. It's like, look, I'm still of the mind that if you have an SUV, like at least somewhere in the back of your mind, you're contemplating using it like for overlanding or off-roading or something, which also means that you should be prepared and okay with it taking, some scratches or damage, whatever. I will tell a quick story. So my brother and I was in college. I think my brother was in high school. And I'd mentioned in the past, my parents had a series of Jeeps. So, we thought we were great adventurers, and we decided the best thing to do was go a bit off-roading. And there was an access road. Calling it a road is pretty generous, more like a trail, but it ran parallel to the power lines. And so they were there to allow the power company to access the power lines, but they weren't roads at all. They were really trails, really, really trails in the truest sense. And my dad had just gotten, maybe 2 weeks old, his brand new silver Grand Cherokee. And my mom had, I think it was like maybe a 6 or 8 month old Grand Cherokee Orvis edition, which my brother at the time, any car in the world that could have been in my parents' garage, that was the car. And my mom had it. Yeah. So the smartest thing to do is immediately take them off-roading. So we do, and it's kind of dark. And we're going through it. We're kind of pushing. We're like, all right, we should turn around at this point. It's getting really tricky. So we turn around and we say, hey, let's run them through the self-service car wash. Let's go rinse them off. And we do. And we're spraying off my dad's 2-week-old one. And we're like, hey, this dirt isn't coming off. And it's not dirt. They were scratches. I think it was on the passenger side, all down both doors. Deep scratches from like a bramble or a thorn bush that we'd gone through.
Yeah.
And we're in the car wash. It's like 9:30 at night, the self-service car wash, and we're freaking out. We're going, oh my gosh, this car is 2 weeks old. What have we done? Oh my gosh. So fortunately, my parents were pretty forgiving. I think we were generally pretty good kids who would make stupid mistakes like this once in a while. I certainly have done a bunch. My brother definitely did a bunch. And so my parents obviously were not overjoyed going, hey, we're really proud of you. My dad was not happy. He did spend the money. I think ultimately he was able to have it like buffed out. It wasn't bad enough, but it cost him and he wasn't happy with this. But this goes back to the point of like, hey, if you have one of these vehicles, like I think this should be in your mind. Like it shouldn't just be, a mall cruiser. Or just like a, Starbucks run vehicle. Like, so, but that's why I don't own one of those. Like, that's
because if you only drive on the road, you don't need it. Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that is the funny thing. Like, since we moved out to the country here, it's like, okay, I'm not driving on dirt. I'm not going down on main roads, even though there are a lot around here and there's probably green laning we could do. But it's more just like you're in a lot of these like single track country roads where like the potholes are like absolutely lunar, and like I was telling you, we've cracked. We're on our second front alloy wheel on the Volvo. Like it got welded once, and now we have a whole new wheel. And quite often, like in order for two cars to pass, you are in the hedge. You are literally scraping all of your paintwork, like just so that you're not hitting the car that's coming head on towards you. Gosh. And you're dropping both sort of like, I guess, kind of passenger side wheels off the road into the dirt or whatever is there. And so there is some part of me where I'm like, so for example, today we went to like a National Trust property. We went like for a walk on the White Cliffs of Dover. It was really lovely. And I noticed that the National Trust had a couple of Hiluxes, like I guess like 23 plates, a couple years old, dark gray, with like massive off-road tires on it and steel wheels. And I was like, actually, that is what I want for these country lanes, right? Like that is exactly the right sort of vehicle, because it's like that's when you need a car like that, right? Like you don't need that in West London.
We were in Uganda a number of years ago. It's the first time I'd gone, and we were in Uganda, and the roads are pretty rough. The roads are really rough. And so one of the things you'll notice is there's very few people driving sedans. Almost everybody's in an SUV of some sort. And that thing is getting used just going down to the gas station or just go to the grocery store. Like you are putting that suspension to test. We did some driving around the country. So like hours and hours per day, 4-hour drive here, 6-hour drive here, etc. And we were in a Land Cruiser, and a diesel Land Cruiser. And then some of our destinations would be pretty rough to get to the parking lot, or we'd be parking in a field somewhere. So you would actually use that ability, especially if it had rained. And I fell in love with that thing. And I came home, and for like 4 months, I was like, I want one, I want one, I want one, I want one. And then
Yeah.
it took me a while for it to click that goes, no, dude, you want that there, but not here in
Yeah.
the US. That
Yeah.
doesn't,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't do that kind of driving here. So
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Yeah. Totally. Horses
But
for
that car was
courses.
awesome, man. Oh my
Yeah. Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
It was
It's like
fantastic.
I've seen quite a few. I don't know if they're selling them in the US yet. The Ineos Grenadiers.
That's a good question. I don't know if they're available in the US.
Okay, because you see them around in the UK, and they're not everywhere, but like I definitely noticed a fair few of them, and they're starting to pop up used for not much more than probably half what they are new, and I kind of half
Wow.
was looking at them online. But what's interesting is all the reviews, again, to that point, are kind of like, if you're going to go off-road in it, if you're going to use it for what it's designed for, it's amazing. But you know what? When you're on road, it's a pain in the ass. And I'm kind of like, realistically, I am on road, like, 90% of the time plus, right? Like the only off-roading I'm going to do is like on these country lanes where I put two wheels off-road
Yeah.
for, 100 yards. Like, and I don't think I would live with the recirculating ball steering that doesn't center itself and all the rest of it, and the terrible turning circle and the
Yeah.
bad fuel economy and the
It's too
noisy and all.
compromised.
Yeah, exactly. All of the rest of it. But the problem is, it's like they do look cool though.
They do.
Yeah.
Oh, they absolutely look cool. There's some SUVs and off-roaders that look fantastic, like the new Land Cruiser, which is the Prado elsewhere, but the new Land Cruiser here.
Yeah.
There's some that just look really good.
Yeah. Are you getting those on the road over there already?
We are. Yeah, I actually saw I've seen 2 or 3 so far.
Yeah. I've seen a couple over here.
Good.
They're cool. I like them.
They are really cool. I think I like the Lexus. I think it's the GX, the Lexus version of it. A little bit more, but I've read comparisons between the two, and I mean, they're really, really, really similar cars.
Yeah. But I mean, I think even like to your point, I think it's probably you can more make a case for something like one of those Land Cruisers or even like a Grenadier more so than like, I don't know, an Urus or like an Aston, whatever it is, or like, even like a Rivian or something, right? It's like, because you go, well, actually that is usable. Like you could actually theoretically just go, okay, I've had enough of life in the US. I'm just going to drive through the Darien Gap. And it's like, you probably could do it, right? In a vehicle like that. But like most like SUVs that people think, oh, this is what I'm going to drive my kids around in. It's like, it would not do that. Like a Volvo XC90 is not really going to go across a muddy field.
Yeah. It's like Urus is a great, like Urus versus RS6. That's a no-brainer. Like same engine. Like why would you? By the way, there's someone in my neighborhood with New Jersey plates that has a Mansouri Urus. Bright yellow. And it is the ugliest vehicle that I've seen in person in a long time. It is awful.
What a statement. Yeah.
I'd
love to know who buys a car like that, and like what clothes do they wear? Like what does their house look like when that is the car that you choose?
I'm sure that their I can't even begin to think. I'm imagining like fake tiger skin rugs and like the loudest Gucci silk shirt you can think of. Like that matches the car.
Speaking of yellow Uruses, have you watched Poker Face? That show, Natasha Lyonne, I forget what channel it was on in the US, but we watched it. It's quite good. It's a bit it's almost a bit like Columbo. So there's like there's a thread that goes through this whole season, but each one is kind of like this mystery. She shows, like she's doing a road trip. She sort of shows up in this town. There's some sort of like crime or murder or whatever, and she solves it by just being a bit kind of hokey. And it's like, it's interesting. It's funny.
Okay.
But
she
one
drive
of them,
Urus?
She doesn't drive a Urus. She drives like a beaten up Nova or something like that, like a kind of Happy Gilmore Nova.
Okay.
I don't know. You must have like stock of them in Hollywood. It's like, oh, this character needs a Nova. It's like nobody drives Novas in real life anymore, do they? Like, come on. It's like the Morris Minor in like, some British upper class twit. It's like nobody drives Morris Minors. But anyway, there is this one episode where there is someone who drives a yellow Urus,
Oh
and it
gosh.
turns out there's like some, I don't know, like some disgraced hedge fund dude or something wearing an ankle tag, and it's like, and basically he's just a dick, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, naturally.
Oh really?
Yeah. But
Nice.
the yellow Urus features in it, and so that's sort of where my head goes to. But
That seems, you know, apologies to anyone who's a fantastic person that drives an Urus, but
if there are any.
if you are a fantastic person that drives an Urus, email us and tell us about it, because we'd love to ask you questions. But yeah, I think it's like one of the worst vehicles on the road today. I know it's made, I'm sure it's made Lamborghini millions and millions of dollars. So
yeah.
fair on them. Cool.
So perhaps there's a foregone conclusion, but I'm assuming you're not a fan of the Puro Sang, if I'm saying that right. Probably not.
You know
Puro
what?
Song.
I think it's cooler than the Urus because it's a little bit of like genre or classification defying. It fits in a lot of different things. You know, it's got that awesome, very, very, very rearward mounted V12 that's NA.
Yeah.
And its form is really cool, but no, I'm not you know, in my billionaire daydreams, that is not a car I would buy.
No, me neither. I mean, I can for a little while, and partly because Chris Harris had one for a time, like the Ferrari FF, which was latterly, I think that what they renamed it like GTC 4B or some
Lusso.
Nonsense like that.
GTC 4 Lusso, I think.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, those I think are kind of cool. And I remember like your pal Harry Metcalf, like, you know, taking his kids on a skiing holiday in one. Yes. And like driving it around the farm up the hill kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I can kind of buy that.
I like those. I think those are cool. Yeah. The only downside is they are huge. They're massive cars.
Yeah.
But way cooler in my mind than a Purosangue or an Urus or anything that rides that high.
Yeah.
They're
totally.
Really cool.
Maybe, you know, maybe when we're like in charge of all these things, we should rule that anything that has a certain ride height, you know, needs to have like 16-inch steel wheels with modern
absolutely
tires.
And huge like 65 ratio tires, so you don't feel anything. It's
and big mud flaps and, you know, all the rest of it.
Yeah, huge mudders.
Like the notion of a sports SUV is just, you know, troublesome.
Yes. Yeah, I do think that's weird. I can see the appeal because you're trying to extend that vehicle's capabilities to cover like the more sporty end of the spectrum. Yeah. But I feel like it's and I know some people do it successfully. Like, hey, like a X5M, X3M are incredibly capable, seeming to defy the laws of physics.
Yeah. Sure.
But I'm still like, so what? Like, I don't know.
But what's the point? Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, well done for making a circle a square. Brilliant. But could we not have just had a circle?
Yeah.
You know, like, but again, like you talking about the RS6, again, it's like you come back to that and you're like, yeah, there is a way to, you know, take your family and the dog and go fast. It's called a fast estate, right? And they've been around for ages. And now, you know, we don't make them anymore because we decided we'd rather be 6 inches higher up so we can see over everyone else, except they're now all 6 inches higher up. So it doesn't work anymore.
It's like an arms race. Let's just get taller.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, should I just have a bus so I can be taller than everyone, or like a cement mixer or something?
Well, yeah, and I think these vehicles getting taller and taller is a problem. I know we should probably wrap this one up, but the one thing I wanted to mention was obviously I think you and I both spend an unhealthy amount of time on YouTube. And Donut Media is a great one, great channel. They had a video, I think a couple weeks ago, about are trucks too tall? And they actually had, I think it was a Tacoma from, gosh, I think it was the late or early 90s. And then they had a modern day full-size Chevy truck, and they're comparing the two. And they went into the details of why are these so heavy? Like, and the answer is somewhat long and complicated. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's worth watching. It's like, why are trucks and SUVs so tall? Why are they so heavy when their utility hasn't really gone up? It's not like the beds have grown that much.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people argue that they're way more dangerous, especially to pedestrians.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, someone was saying to me the other day that in the UK, like in the 80s, a lot of like the sort of original Range Rovers and stuff, like they would ship or you could get them as a sort of dealer accessory with like the bull bars on,
Yeah.
you know. And like, and actually, yeah, it was the guy who's like doing some building work here and he lived in Australia for a while. And he's like, in Australia, they have them because like the kangaroo would jump out of in front of you and like otherwise it totals your car. So you have the bars in the front. And he said, but they banned them in the UK because basically, like, you hit a child with that, and it's like they're completely screwed. Whereas I think in Europe now, there's a lot of legislation around like that sort of passenger, like how the front of a car has to be for
Yes.
passenger safety if you hit one. And you're right, yeah. You look at a full size pickup truck in the US, and you go like, even if an adult isn't going to stand much of a chance even at like 30 miles an hour or something that's like at 5 foot high kind of
Yeah.
like
You're going to hit that. Like it's a flat front. You're going to hit it straight on and then you're going to go under it.
Yeah.
Whereas I think what's safer is to go above it. It's interesting you mentioned like the pedestrian safety, like the current Miata, when I bought mine as a 2019, even then in Europe, they have the hood that pops up. So when the front sensor detects you hit somebody, the hood pops up to create space between the hood surface and the engine. So if someone does hit that hood, they're not, head straight to the engine block or the intake. There's some space. And I think that's cool. I know it makes
they don't have that on the US ones.
The US ones do not have that. They don't have that feature. So
American. It's like it's on you. Hey, buddy, you shouldn't be so dumb as to get in front of my car.
That's exactly right. In the US, your freedom to drive without safety stuff on the car supersedes pedestrian safety. Hey, I mean, from a modifying perspective, having that is kind of a pain in the butt. But come on, like, how many people actually modify the Miata versus the number sold? Like, I think that's a burden you take on. As someone who modifies all his cars, like, I'm willing to take that burden on to try and save somebody. I don't want to kill somebody. Like, I don't want to live with that. And if the car does something to keep me from killing somebody, cool, I'm down with it.
Yeah, so be it. Yeah, exactly. It's like and I know this is not necessarily a new thing, but I was reminded the other day, I was reading something about like maybe the electric Volvo, like the EX90, or maybe that they've just facelifted the XC90, and they speed limit them all to 112 miles an hour. Because their thing is like, why does anybody need to go more than that on a public road in a Volvo? And I'm kind of like, yeah, I agree with that, right? Like, like what country, outside of Germany has a speed limit where you can do that on a public road in a normal car? And why do you need to? You just don't, kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
I think with certain cars, I can see that. Yeah, if you were to do that with like an Audi RS6, I think it'd be upset. But with a Volvo, sure, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if your Huracan was limited, you'd be a bit bummed.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you're taking the track anyway. You're just gonna park it in front of the.
Yeah, exactly. It's just for the vibes.
Yeah, just the vibes. Lambo vibes.
Lambo vibes.
So, all right. With that, we're gonna wrap episode 5, which will hopefully be up soon. But episodes 1 through 4 are now available. I don't know why I'm saying it like they're available elsewhere. Like they're now available, full stop. But
exactly. There's punctuation there. They are available.
Yeah, they're just available. Whereas before they just lived on the hard drive of my computer. But do email us at info@npptg.com if you have questions, concerns, feedback. Want to complain to the manager, we'll delete those. Or anything else, really. But thanks for listening. Are we working on merch? I don't think we're working on merch, but what we did set up is a subscription, and we will send you stuff if you subscribe. What we'll send you, I don't know. It won't be like inappropriate pictures or anything like that. We'll send you stuff of objective value.
Oh, that's a high bar, isn't it, Jeremy? Objective value.
Well,
we'll send you stuff. Full stop, I think.
Wouldn't a coupon to like Popeyes? That's objective value, right?
That's
even if you live in the
value.
UK and you don't have Popeyes. Do you have Popeyes chicken in the UK?
No.
We'll send. You know what we'll do is we'll send you a coupon to either Popeyes or Nando's chicken. If you don't have those elsewhere, tell us where you live and we'll find a coupon for you or something.
Cheeky Nando's.
Or you could take a trip to London to have Nando's. Anyway, that's enough about Nando's. My God, what's wrong with me? I need some food in my stomach. Clearly.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by various different chicken restaurants.
So the next sporty Range Rover, it won't be called Range Rover Sport. It'll be called Range Rover Piri Piri.
Yeah,
Nando's edition.
Chicken Nando's.
Yeah.
Double fries.
Yes. So so we'll send you something. Again, we'll send you something of value if you do subscribe. And thanks to the handful of folks who've downloaded some of our episodes that are already out there. That's awesome. We're excited. But we'll catch you on the next one for more total bullshittery, global bullshittery brought to you by Hugo and Jami. All right, thanks y'all. Take care.